In this module, we're going to learn how about retrieving data using subqueries. In Oracle, there are many different ways that you can use subquery. I'll show you a couple examples right here. One of them, I use the select statement and use the subquery in the select statement. You have a query within the query. Right here is another column right here that you do select sum of the total from employee. But really there is no relation between this column, this table, which is employee table, and this employee table. But it is possible that write a select statement, select a query from multiple table. Here is an example of this one, and you're going to see that it returns us a result. Let me run the example, and here's the example that give us the result. There is also I combine this select statement right here and combine it with the another select statement. We can use a subquery in the from clause. We use right here in the select clause. Right here I'm enhancing the same example and using the subquery in the from clause and using equijoint right here to comparing table employee and table B, which is select department name, department number, name, location from department. This is another location that we can use a subquery. Let me run this example too, and you're going to see that also are combining two tables and returning, grabbing the data from multiple tables. The third type also we can have in the where clause that we used before. I have in the select statement right here a subquery. I have in the from clause an online table right here, and I have the third option in the where clause that I have where department number is unknown, department number select from location, where locate from DPT, where location is equal to Dallas. Well, I don't want it returning more than one rows, so that's the reason I use right here. I use a where clause. I'm sorry, a row num. Be sure that does not returning more than one row. And this one also is going to work if we try this one too.
Down here, I'm talking about two concepts, pairwise and non-pairwise subquery. What is the pairwise and non-pairwise subquery? Up to now, let me go to another example. Up to now, normally we're loading a subquery and we're selecting a subquery, for example, employee ID, manager ID, department ID from employee, where one column in the where clause, this item exists in this subquery. So in fact, if I'm running this subquery, it's supposed to return me a result, and it looks like this one that I have department ID 149. So in fact, we're going to extract department ID 149, and then we're going to say word manager ID in department 140, department ID, manager ID is 149. Now we can write in a form of subquery, one and one is going to return. How about if I have two components right here? If I have two columns, let's go to this example. If I have this example, the same query, that you're going to see that in my where clause, I'm looking for two samples. And let me go ahead and remove this one a little bit so you can see it better. And you're going to see I have manager ID. Also, I would like to compare department ID. Both of these exist in this list. Manager ID goes with this manager ID, and this department ID goes with this department ID. If you look in this example, there are two ways that we can compare every where clause, left side of the where clause with the right side of the where clause. So this one should be matched with this one, and this one should be matched with this one. If it is true, you're going to return this row. If it is not true, it won't return the row. So always we call this type of comparison, we call it pairwise. It means this one matching with this one at the same row, this department ID matching with this department ID, with consideration of the where clause. If those condition is true, if this is true, this one with this one is true, this one with this one also is true, then consider also the row that you retrieved already currently is supposed to be in 199, 174, the employee ID, then return that row. So this is, we call it pairwise subquery. Now, this example, if I'm running it, it's going to give me error because the data set that we have in our book is slightly, we have in our server, is slightly different than a slide that however it works. Did I pick up 2 ID? Yes, department ID. And however, if sometime you find out that it doesn't work, you have, okay, that's a scalar subquery that it didn't work, I tested before. So you're going to return 2 rows for us as result of whatever so far I explained this one to you. We call this one pairwise subquery. So this is the pairwise subquery. What is non-pairwise subquery? Non-pairwise subquery is another way that we can look at the same example. We're going to say manager ID and we're writing a subquery, and if this one is true, and in a state of putting both of those next to each other in the where clause, we're using an operator, and we're going to say department ID exists in department ID from this subquery that we ran it right here. So this sample is most likely, it's much more restricted compared to this example. This example matching one employee ID and department ID in one row, matching with the manager ID and department ID in the same row of this table, you're going to return the result. This one you're going to look differently. You're going to look at this manager ID from this table and this department ID, go looping through the whole employee table from this table. If this condition is true and this condition is true, then go ahead return us a row. So this one we call it non-pairwise, and this example we call it pairwise subquery. So, and as I said, this is a non-pairwise subquery is much more restricted to the pairwise subquery. A scalar subquery. This is another type of subquery that we can have, and if you know this is a subquery so far we have in the where clause. If you know this the example that I told you at the beginning, we can have a subquery in the select statement. Well, we may call this one subquery or may not, but anyway, we can write a query within the query in the select statement, select clause. And also, so far we're going to an example that we have a where clause, and in the where clause we have many different subquery, which one of them is pairwise, one of them is non-pairwise, and this example we call it a scalar subquery. A scalar subquery is another type of subquery that result of this subquery should be calculated, and whatever is the value, this value should pass it back and compare to parent query. So if we name this one the parent query and we name this one a child query, the result of this portion should be returned back to here, and you're going to compare with this where clause, and if this one is true, this condition is true, as a result you're going to return the row employee ID and last name. So that's what we call it also a scalar subquery. In this example, as I try to show it to you, this example select department ID from department well location ID is equal to 1800. This one return more than one row, and so you're going to have more than one row, and right here is a single value. So we have to somehow change this one, so you're going to return one value. And here is the example that I try to show it to you. Right here in the scalar subquery, because in this case that we have right here with when select from department, what I did, where location ID is equal to 1800, I adding and only bring one row, because this one, if I ran this one, you're going to see that it's going to return me multiple column. And that's not what we want. We want only one column. It will return 220. So what I did, I restrict this one a little bit more, and I put the row number also should be not more than 2. So don't make mistake. If you're running this sample from your book, you're going getting error. All you have to do, adding this example that I have him right here, just putting in the row number less than 2, so restricting that you're going to return only one row, this portion. This portion is supposed to return only one value, which is 20, compared with the department ID. Let me test this example too. And as a result, you're going to see that you're going to return the resulting row that we like. So this is what we call it SAP query. Again, I'm going back to my first slide. We're writing a SAP query in the where clause so far. We have correlated, we have pairwise, we had non-pairwise also. Now let's go ahead and also before we learn that, let's say right here, we learned that also we have in the from clause, we can have a table employee, or we have a virtual table or online table. That also we can call that one a SAP query. Now let's go another example, and this one correlated SAP query. Correlated SAP query is reverse of nesting SAP query. If we call this query nesting SAP query, this correlated SAP query is slightly different. What I mean by slightly different, in fact, you matching a condition from the parent query and with the child query or outer query and inner query, and if that condition is satisfied, return this row. What I mean by that one, let me make it simple. I'm going to running a SAP query right here. Select the average of salary from employee where department ID is equal to this department ID. But this department ID cannot be calculated right here. This department ID depends to other department ID. And other is this table, this department ID, this value right here. So every row that you're going to run, you're going to parent table, a parent query ran, and the SAP query ran simultaneously, and this row is true, this result is true, which is result of this department ID, return the row. If not, no, go to the next row. So this one, this type of query, we call it correlated SAP query, mean the parent query and the child query, or as your book name it, outer query and inner query, they supposed to go hand by hand, and one row from this one row from that one. Same row from one row from this table and one row from this table. If it's match, return the row. If it's not, just pass the row and go to the next one. Now, let's look at a correlated SAP query. Correlated SAP query, so really it doesn't matter what we gonna put right here. The concern is that this employee ID, which is belong to this table, to this query, is matching with this employee ID that we're getting from the job history. As long this condition is true, the result is true, and then again, if this one, this count is less than or equal to 2, then return this row. Now, as I said, this one really not very much important. So let me run this example and change this example and run it some other way. Let's look at this example. I'm going to paste this example, and you're going to see as a result, it find out for me employee ID, last name, and job ID from employee, where the total count of the job history equal to or less than or equal to 2. So where this condition is satisfied, where this employee ID from the job history matching the employee ID from employee table. So this one we call it correlated. Well, what is the purpose of this count max? It's going to return the total count. That's the only purpose this total count has right here. Let me show you an example. If I'm going to change this total count to count job, still it doesn't matter. because you're going looking at total count and return the total count to me right here, and the result I'm going running a subquery. So it not necessarily should be always asterisk. It should be job ID. It could be a total count of number department or whatever that you're going. Even this example could be total of sum of a number or sum of the value. Anyway, it's a group function that should be in there. So this is also from correlative subquery.